Hey guys! Okay, we are on our 5th and last build page until we do the inside, front, and back cover. And I have come up with the last design, and I'm just putting, I'm just putting the tape on my clinkety clankety things so I don't have to listen to that. Okay, so what we have here is we have our base page, our mat, excuse me, that goes onto the base page, which is the tunnels, okay? And then I did this is a belly band, so it's not a pocket, it's just sealed on the sides. And they are connected to the back side. Anytime that you can get things on the back sides of your page, it makes for smoother, paper going in and out. It also, if you don't do it correctly, can make your items very much tighter, or if you want them to be tighter. Okay, so that is 2 different reasons that you would want to put them around your mat instead of on top of your mat. If you are wanting to make sure that you can really fit a lot in and you're doing like a pocket, putting them on top of the mat will work better for that. Will fit in more items, okay? All right, so we have our belly band, and it's 21.5 by 5 centimeters, or 8.5 by 2 inches, okay? And then we have a right side flap and a left side flap. And look at all this room. Isn't that just wonderful? And you might look at it and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to decorate that? We will decorate it, and it will be beautiful. Okay, so these flaps are both the exact same. I had originally did it at 5.5 and decided I wanted to just be a little bit longer. So I've got 7 7/8 by 5 3/8, and that's in inches. Or I have 20 by 13.7 centimeters. And so you need 2 of those. In actuality, you're going to need 4 because you're going to have to build 2 of these pages, and you're going to need 2 belly bands in order to do both pages. Now this I got out of scraps. I had to cut it down, but I got it out of scraps. And so now you're going to see how I made this. So hopefully this way is easy for you. Okay, so I have my 8.5 by 2 inches, or 21.5 by 5 centimeters. And I am going to score it first on one side a 1/2 inch, which I've already done, just to try and make the videos a little quicker. So I've done that. I have my top marked. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure down from the top. And you can line it up along the side just to make sure that you're nice and straight, and line it up against the top and measure down 2 5/8, right? That's what I said, yes, or 6.7 centimeters, 2 5/8. And then you're going to come around and do the same thing on this side, line it up down the side and across the top. And that's 1, 2 5/8, which is the first mark after 2.5. Just so you got that. Okay, and then we're going to measure these 2 not measure them, line these 2 marks up that we just made, and make a mark all the way across the paper. Okay? So now I have my mark. Oh, good, you can see that. Now, I'm going to hook this flap, the hinge part, onto the back of my mat, and I'm going to line this up just above that 2 5/8 line. So it is going to lay directly across the top of that 2 5/8 inch line. So you can still see that line right there. So I'm going to move that just a little bit. So you can still see that line when you lay it down. Okay, so lay it right across the top. Make sure you're nice and flat. Everything is laying the way you want it. Something, this did not fold nice enough. Okay, let's try it again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Okay, that is just not wanting to be straight at all right there. Okay. Let me check out my scoring and make sure. Yeah, it looks like I scored a bit funky on that one. Okay. So I'm actually going to make myself another score line over here so that I can have an accurate starting off point. Okay, so I got my 1/2 inch. Now let's see if we're going to get it right this time. See, guys, it's just keep after it. Keep doing it. Make those corrections. Okay. I have a mark, or I would make a mark right where my score line is going to be, which I think I'm going to make myself one more little score line right here because I'm not quite where I want to be. Now, when you make a score line for this one, because you're going around the paper, you need to leave yourself ever so slightly off the mat. You make your mark so that you have enough room to round or to go around that page and still not. Here we go. So because you want to be able to go around the page without getting it, making the mat buckle. All right, I got to do a little bit of pushing and shoving on this thing because it's got 3 different score lines it's trying to go on. All right, so we're going to place this here and this here. Now, it's making the paper buckle a little bit. Can you see when I close this up? It's buckling a little bit, okay? We don't want that. So I am going to, instead of picking on this one that already has multiple score lines on it, I'm going to go back to the other side. And then when you push it in, you're on the halfway, you're on the inch mark. Your score line is right there where the inch mark was. I am going to move the score line that way ever so slightly. So you have the little pegs and then you have the little valleys. So I'm going to move that score line so it's over on the peg. Not in the center of it, but just all of it is right at the edge of the peg. And I'm going to make another score line. So you're basically scoring exactly next to that. And we're going to try that one. Now you have to maneuver this a good bit because it's going to want to fall into that original score line. And I do have my mic on. Yes, I do. That's my #1 trick these days. Okay, so we're going to try it this time. You want to make sure you're getting it on straight before you see if you're doing any buckling. Okay, now I have no buckling when I have it on straight. And I'm just going to give the sides, I'm holding my mat down and holding the belly band down. And I'm just pushing with my bone folder against the sides to give them just a little edge. Just pushing so they get a little edge. And this way, it's like when you work your pocket, which I'll show you later on. it gives you just that little bit more room, that edge that you made, the double-sided edge that you made, or the double score line that you made. Now you have a little bit of edge, and your belly band has a lot more room to it. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we are sitting on top, butt up against the line, but don't cover it. I mean, it really doesn't matter, but I just thought it would be nice for you to have a line to watch for. Okay, so now we're going to glue this down. See, so far, guys, all it is putting hinges on your paper and gluing the paper down. Yeah, just cutting a size out, gluing it down. Now these are on the outside, so you don't need, and they're not on the edges. So you don't need to do anything with cutting these little pieces off of your hinge. You know how I do that? Okay, so now we have these flaps that are going to lay right across the bottom here. And if they were cut correctly, if my measurements I gave you are correct, you should have, and let me put a piece of paper down because I think you'll be able to see it just with that. You should have a little bit of an opening there. And the reason being, this being part of our closure, you're going to want to be able to do this, okay? So that's why a little extra room in here and a little extra room here. So it's a lot easier to do this. If you butt this up to this, then you're going to have to, fight for space. All right, so let's fold our score marks. So you have a left and a right flap, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on one of the short sides for each one of them, okay? And so once you score it, we're also going to lay this over the mat and have it glued onto the back because I can, and I like it that way. It just makes it neater. But since this is going all the way down to the edge of the paper, I am going to take this corner and clip it because I don't want all that bulk being seen around the edges, okay? So this is our front. Here is our left hinge, and I'm going to flip it over so that it opens up this way, and I'm going to put my glue down. There we go. I'm going to lift this up, give this a bit of a fold, lay it on the top of my paper, and it'll hook on the edge. I'm making sure that it is lined up all the way down the sides, and then I'm going to bend it over, making sure it stays all the way down on the sides. And then we're going to burnish this. Let me just double check that it didn't move. It did a smidge. Okay. There we go. And then just burnish it down. And let's make sure that we didn't get any squirting out. And there is our first flap. How easy is that? And we are just a titch off. You know, if you're trying to make it nice, you might as well take the time to make it nice. I flattened that out a little bit too much. Okay, so there's that one. And then we have our other score line. We're going to go ahead and... That one didn't really go through very well, so let me... There we go. And again, you want to make sure that they're lining up on the sides. And this one, so here's our top. Let me go ahead and put a T up here again so we can see that. So here's our top, and we've already installed our left flap. Now we're going to install our right flap. And I'm just checking it out to make sure that we are straight. I already had checked to make sure that I was exactly the same size for the two flaps that we're installing here. The same width this way. Okay, that's good. I'm going to flip it over, open it up, and put my glue down. Now that okay, I moved it, so let me double check. Yep, we're good. Okay. Ah! And then I move it. Hazards of working on glass sometimes, guys. Okay. Okay. Now flip it over, close it down, and before you really push hard, just come back and double check that everything's lined up. Give a little burnish on the side. There we go. And we're done with that build. Look at that. Bam and bam. And that'll dry clear. I just try and get as much of it off as I can. There we go. Okay, so now you need to go and build 2 of these for yourself. So just back it up and watch me again, or you know, whatever you need to do for that, guys. So we are now going to go back and revisit each one of these pages and see if right off the bat we need to work on something that's going to help do our closure, or if we want to add a few more pockets or things like that. Okay, so we've got our basic build done for our 5 pages, and we've got our tubes done for our 5 pages. So we're getting there. We are getting there, and I want you to look right now with all of this paper together, and I'm not squeezing it, I'm just kind of holding it and letting it kind of fluff out a little bit, because you got to remember you're going to be filling this thing with papers and all kinds of stuff. And there goes my phone. Let me just give you a quick measurement here. Right now we're almost 2.5. Wow. I'll be back in a minute with the next part.